This is the Marketing Made Easy for HR Consultants podcast, a show to help independent UK-based HR consultants get a pipeline of perfect fit, high-paying clients without expensive adverts, time-consuming social media activities, or energy-sapping and monotonous networking meetings. I'm your host, Nick Paninsky, author of How to Land Your Dream Client, a book which explains everything you need to know to get every sale and client you ever want. And if that sounds interesting, then make sure to grab your copy from the influential consultant website today. That being said, let's get into today's show. Hello there, and welcome back to another episode of Marketing Made Easy for HR Consultants with me, Nick Paninsky. As you know, most of the time, this show is about marketing and sales, but we also talk about being the best you that you can be so that you can get more work from leads and clients. And today's show falls into that category, as we're talking about a tool that you can share with your clients to help them have the best business possible. Specifically, we're talking about motivational maps. So we have today with us, we've got Steve Jones, who is an expert in motivational maps. Welcome to the show, Steve.
Thanks, Nick. Lovely to be here and looking forward to spending some time talking about all things motivation.
Excellent. Can't wait to have this conversation because this is not something that I particularly know about, but it is something I'm aware of and something that I'm sure will help the listeners of this show, and it'll help their clients too. So before we begin, can you give us a brief introduction to yourself, your 2-minute escalator? Escalator?
Elevator, maybe.
Elevator pitch, that's the one.
You can call it whatever you like. It's your show. So my background was health and fitness management. So I was with Fitness First PLC when we started with one club on the south coast. I left when we were the largest in the world. Went through the aim, the full listing, opening a club a week, 1.2 worldwide. So I experienced fast growth and all its nightmares and all its glories. I left. I was a highly skilled but lowly motivated employee when I left, because actually when the city got hold of it, everything changed. It became very much a reporting process. It was about profit. It wasn't about people. So that's why I got my interest in motivation. Why could I have worked in an industry I love and suddenly fall out of love with it? What happened? What changed? And that was the stimulus, really. I didn't realize it at the time. But anyway, I left, took my share options, spent some time just pondering my next move. And then I was approached, I started to think, well, I could probably help companies with their growth. So I started working with companies on their growth. And then I was approached by an international coaching organization called Sherlock that specialized in SME fast growth. So I spent 3 years with them using their methodologies, tools, and techniques, which mapped perfectly my Fitness First journey. But in there somewhere, I recognized that there's a piece missing. And the piece missing I felt was actually, if you want to grow a company fast, particularly, what you need is to be able to keep your talent and attract talent. So it was all about people and leadership. So I started looking at leadership, management issues around leadership and motivation. I didn't know it was called employee engagement at the time, but that's what it was.
Yes.
And then I had a phone call from the government task force team in London. They were looking at employee engagement because only 1 in 3 people actually going to work were engaged. So I was drafted into London to work with the employee engagement team, and we started looking at companies that were getting it right. And I co-chaired the steering committee for about 3 years, and we looked at what they were doing differently. And there were 4 main themes. But we found all this information out, but nobody was doing anything with it. So I kind of exited. And in that mix was motivational maps, because motivational maps is a way of understanding why people get out of bed, why they're coming to work, and what they're looking for. It's not personality. Personality is about your behavior. Motivation is about why you get out of bed, why you're coming to work, and what you're looking for. And then how can an employer harness that?
So just to circle back a little bit, because you said something really interesting in there. You said, Dane, you were talking about working with the government task force. I just want to drag attention to this quickly. It was really interesting. You said you were working with the government task force. You found out all this great information. No one was doing anything with it. And I thought that is key there, because, you know, I'm not going to say anything about the government and public sector and private sector and about whether or not people do their jobs. And I'm not going down that route. But what I do want to say is that's really interesting, because that's something I've been thinking about for a while, is people know things, but they don't do anything with that knowledge.
Yeah.
And they might as well not know it, because knowing it and doing nothing with it means what's the point in knowing it? It's so interesting. It's like, we know that, for example, alcohol is bad for us. We still drink it. So what difference does it make if we know that it's bad for us?
Yeah.
We know that, loads of other stuff like social media destroys like our motivation, and it's affecting the way that our brains work, but we still go on it anyway. So yeah, I love that. And yeah, as an avid reader of books, I know that implementation is what people are lacking, because it's one thing buying a piece of information, it's another thing then going to implement it.
Yeah, so that's basically what I did. I took it and I built a course. Well, actually, I built a course, but I worked with two clients. I worked with an accountancy firm where the business owner had started this business originally to help SME owners, but then he got caught up in chasing the money, and he'd lost his focus. So we got him. So we got his whole leadership team back in love with the business, to the point where they won loads of awards for the way they looked after their employees as a result of the work we did. And then Age Technologies, which was a 14.2 million turnover when I started with them. When I left, they were 21 million turnover, and we did that in 2 years. And the reason they had over 100 staff when they flipped. I remember the managing partner. He took over. Sorry, the managing MD took over from his father. So he had old school, new school, and we were trying to get this culture of employee engagement right in the organisation. And they've been grappling with it. So I spent about a year with the senior leadership team and the board, just helping understand their role in making their company a great place to be at. And they went on to win loads of awards too. So I kind of knew I had something then. And at the heart of it, what I developed during that period was a 90-day motivational action plan. This is where it's exciting for your listeners, probably, because there's not a lot of this going on. But if you did motivational maps, because motivation changes, personality doesn't, but motivation does.
Yeah.
So, and things impact it negatively and positively. So if you're trying to keep your talent, you need to keep an eye on the motivation levels. Because take my example of leading Fitness First. They didn't know I wasn't motivated. They just assumed, because I did my job and I was resilient, they had no idea. Inside, I was absolutely dying. So I was working off resilience, not energy. So at some point, if I hadn't left, I probably would have become.
Yeah.
So from personal experience, it was great. But the tool is brilliant because it helps managers understand what makes that person tick. And if I know what makes that person tick, I can now actually manage them differently.
Yes.
If somebody wants freedom, for example, just give them clear, concise instructions, leave them alone, let them get on with it. If someone wants to feel more secure, show them how they're going to be safe within the organisation and what they need to do.
I love this. And just before we go into the advantages of what the motivational maps give an organisation and an employee, and then ultimately the listeners of the show, why they should take this to their clients. What is a motivational map? Let's start off at square one, because I know what motivation is. I know when I'm lacking it, but what is a motivational map?
So a motivational map it's a diagnostic. So it takes about 15 to 20 minutes to do. It's and it forces you to rank the 9 what we call work motivators against each other, to work out which ones are most important and which ones are least important. And when we know what's most important, then we can take some actions around. Also, we have a metric around it. So we work out percentage score of how much that motivation is getting met currently by your work, by your employer. Okay, so it's not a score about your motivation. It's about how your company's currently harnessing your motivations.
Right.
So then we have an action plan. So if, let's say, you like freedom and autonomy and you're totally micromanaged, you're going to be low on that score. It's going to be like a 1 out of 10.
Yeah.
Okay. So what can we now do to make sure you have more freedom in your role and there's less micromanagement?
Yeah.
Okay. So now there's an action plan that goes with it. So the beauty for your listeners is that this is a tool that actually you have to do regularly because motivation changes. And also it moves into the coaching element of actually how do we improve it. And the improvement means more productivity, more profit for an organization. but you've got a tool that's going to keep you in that organization, that's going to give you the edge as an HR professional, because most HR professionals will be doing the HR stuff. Here's a productivity tool.
Excellent. I love that. So yeah, as you say, the listeners of this show can take these motivational maps to their clients and say, listen, let's work out how motivated, how productive our team are. And if they're not motivated, here's some actions we can take. But if they are motivated, let's keep going.
Yeah, and you can also resolve other HR issues, because some of these motivations clash. If you've got someone who likes to control people, managing someone who likes freedom, for example, you've got a problem, okay?
Yes.
And potentially that's going to lead to a disciplinary, and HR is going to get kicked in to deal with an unnecessary evil. So we can avoid it very quickly. And also it stops talent leaving the organization. So it really helps an HR professional or a team identify, okay, so we might have another example. We might have somebody who's very creative, loves project, likes taking risk, which is usually the business owner. And then you've got the accountant who likes security and predictability, doesn't like change. And they're working together on developing the growth of the organization. And they're at loggerheads. But actually, when they understand each other, now they're a foil for each other. Because if I've got these crazy ideas, you can tell me why they won't work, and then between us, we can come up with a solution. So it's about the team understanding each other as much as they're understanding themselves, and then the business understanding how these motivations are playing out in their organization.
Amazing. Okay. I like that, because then they can leverage this motivation to move the business forward.
Yeah.
So I guess that I understand now what a motivational map is. So people ask these questions from this form, they fill in the answers. They're then identified as a certain motivation of some form, right? Yeah. How they want to be motivated, what motivates them.
Yeah, so it's an online questionnaire. So it's and you get a platform with, when you get into it, you get a platform with it, so you can produce team reports and look at individuals. And I train HR people within businesses to do this, and leaders within business. But if you're looking to increase your revenue as an HR professional, then you'd be doing it for them, basically.
They would be trained, accredited, etc.
Exactly. Yeah. So they would go in and they would run the process.
Excellent. So in terms of, I think we've touched on this a little bit, in terms of the advantages, why would a HR consultant want to take this to their clients? So we've obviously got managing the staff better, which then leads to better productivity, fewer grievances, fewer disciplinaries, etc. So let's explore that a little bit.
Yeah, well, to your point earlier, and you were talking about marketing. Right, you can be a Me Too HR person, or you can be an HR person with an edge who's got something, an attention grabber, something that actually I'd not ever thought about that, and also something that's going to keep you involved with the business. Because if you did this once a quarter, then you'd be looking at the results. You'd be going, okay, what's happening here? The business has suddenly shifted. Now you've isolated this individual. Let's give you a prime example. So let's imagine you've got an organisation and they suddenly decide to hot desk, so they're going to do hybrid working. Okay. Now, that's fine for the spirit who likes freedom and autonomy. It's happy days. But for the friend who likes the community of people, you've just destroyed their world, because they love to be around people. And you have no idea you've done it. You have no idea you pissed off, excuse my language, really, really key people. And those people then will vote with their feet and leave, and then you'll lose key people. So when you make strategic decisions in an organization, it's going to positively or negatively impact the motivations of staff. And you may have no idea how that's happening. But if you're monitoring it, you'll know.
Amazing. That's brilliant.
So you can see straight away that actually, and there no business standstills, there's constant change.
There is.
So one of the workshops I do with companies is I say, look, let's look at your change management in relation to how you're going to take your people with you. So there are people who are going to dig their heels in and not want the change. There are people who are going to embrace it. They're all going to be working out what's in it for them based on their motivations.
Yes.
Okay.
Because change is inevitable, and an organization needs to move with the times. But some people, I think we've all, as HR, we know that change program is inevitable. But how do you get people on board? And they talk about all this best practice. But for some people, that change is just not appropriate.
It's all about that. They'll be looking at it from what's in it for me? Their motivations.
Yeah.
So if they're looking for security and predictability and changes coming, what's the question they're going to ask? Am I going to still have a job? How's this going to disrupt my routine?
Yeah.
And then you've got someone, let's say, likes to make a lot of money. I call them the builder. Okay, so where's the edge for me? How am I going to make more money doing this? Okay, if I'm going to embrace it. And then you've got people, how am I going to shine doing this? How am I going to maintain control? All the different motivations start to kick in. The conversations in their heads around the change, and you're a manager, you've got no idea these conversations are going on in people's heads around all of this. Okay, so it helps you understand how people are going to react to the change, and then how you need to manage them through it.
Love it. And then this helps the HR consultant. I mean, I get the understanding of it, and this helps my audience, the HR consultants listening along, because this gets them, it can either get them like a retainer client, or it can get them an ongoing project, i.e. every 3 months or whatever.
Yeah, well, depending on how they want to take their HR business, but if you want to get into the sort of more strategic coaching side of it, as well as the compliance side, you've got an edge. You've got an edge. So I'll come in and I'll work strategically with your business around making sure the culture and the motivation is right for the growth that you're anticipating. And this is all about keeping your talent, and I'll show you how you can do it by managing their motivations.
Love it. That's amazing. Sorry to ask this question. Are there any more advantages? Because I'm more or less sold. But,
yeah. Well, because we said earlier, you got the quiet quitting, so you identify that straight away. Presenteeism, you'll identify that straight away. You've got other situations that you've probably got in your organisation, like mental health. So you think about mental health. If someone's highly motivated and working off energy, do you think they're going to have mental health issues? That's unlikely. Okay, sickness levels. When you get demotivated, when you get downtrodden, when you get tired because your energy's low, what happens? I mean, you're going to go on a holiday, aren't you? Yeah. So you think about that. So it's going to impact them. They're going to have sickness is high. Okay, so your absenteeism, sickness goes up.
This tool helps organizations manage people as individuals.
Yeah, as people. Yeah. Let's understand what's going on with this individual, and when we make decisions in our organisation, if you've got someone who's a control freak managing someone, like I said, who loves freedom, how long is that going to sustain before that person starts going sick or starts looking elsewhere? And then you lose that talent to your organisation, and your organisation is growing. Now, the other thing with this, so I haven't told you, is the latest Gallup information tells us that only 10% of people going to work are actually engaged in their work. So that's a massive, disengagement score of 90% of people going to work are not engaged. And the other thing is, if you start to lose talent, Gallup says it's going to cost twice the salary. So if a manager's on 30, an employee's on 30, it's going to cost you 60. If a manager's on 50, it's going to cost you 100K to replace them if you can find them.
Yes. Yeah.
Now, I'll give you a practical example. I worked with a large organisation, 170 staff, and we did something with all the staff, and we identified that 5 people were at risk of leaving. 5 key people had low motivational scores at risk of leaving the organisation. Now, this is a law firm, and the managing partner had no idea. He thought they were happy, but there were 5 people that were not really happy around their motivations. He drove around, sat with them, and re-engaged them with the business. And I asked him afterwards, I said, how much do you think that saved you, saving those people? He said, probably about £1 million, because of they would have taken clients with them. It would have been disruptive for their clients. They would have struggled to find key people like that. The replacements are hard to find.
Recruitment fees.
Yeah, and it would have stifled his business because there would be areas of his business that would have been suffering. Yeah. So, this is not fluffy stuff. This is actually let's make it about the people. The people drive the business. You need good. So what they say is systems drive business, and people drive systems. That's business. So you need good systems, but you need good people driving those systems. And if you want to get ahead of the game, you know when you walk into a business and the staff are engaged because you can feel it.
Yeah.
You walk into a business where they're just going through the motions. So are they coming into work just to do a job, or are they coming in because they're passionate?
Yes. Because I was just thinking then when you were talking about you can feel the motivation, that there is something to that as well, because there's, in terms of HR, there's hard HR or there's soft HR. And hard
Yeah,
HR is where they're plugged into some form of machine which
yeah,
manages the employee, like a
yeah,
call center or they're in a factory. Whereas soft HR is more, well, in terms of it's more motivational. It's more,
yeah,
engagement. They have a choice about how well they perform at work, how seriously they take their role. And that's,
yeah.
knowledge workers effectively. And if they are not engaged, they will not perform their work well.
No.
You won't know about it unless you do this motivational mapping.
Yeah, it's interesting because it comes back to the four things we discovered when I did work with the engagement success team in London. So
Mm,
we found that, first of all, if you want a great organisation, it has to have a great story, great reason why it exists. So where it come from, where you are, where you're going, that's the first thing, and it needs to be communicated. The second thing, you need engaging managers. The third thing, you need a listening culture. And the fourth thing, you need a set of values that are lived and breathed. If you get those four things instilled in your organization, you've got the culture right. People are showing up because they want to, not because they have to. And you're getting all that discretionary effort, all that energy. And do you think that's transferring to the clients? Absolutely.
yeah, of course. Well, I was at Atomicon at the weekend, and there was a guy speaking called Jeff Ram, and he was talking about giving your clients and customers the celebrity treatment. I took it
Yeah.
on board. I love it. Like I call it the Brad Pitt treatment, for want of a
Yeah.
better phrase.
It's
Because,
like
like you say, like if you give your clients and customers the best experience possible, they will not take their business elsewhere.
no, and they
Because
want to
they will
feel
feel
loved.
valued.
They want to feel valued, listened to, good response times. People go in the extra mile to make sure they sort any issues out they've got.
Yeah, and all
And
that is
also,
discretionary. Like you
yeah,
can choose how well to treat your clients.
yeah, and also there's the constant relationship, isn't there, as
Yeah,
well? Because if the companies are churning staff all the time, first of all, it's bloody expensive, and secondly, I'm dealing with a different person every week when I talk to this organisation.
yeah,
So what's going on there? And then when they're on there, they're not really engaging with me; they're just following a script or going through something.
love it. Okay, so we've got all the advantages, I think, out of the
Yeah,
motivational map. And we've got why HR consultants, my audience, the audience listening along, we've got why they should take this to their clients. So
yeah.
I guess the only thing to say now is how can a HR consultant who's listening along, how can they take advantage of this tool that we are presenting to them? What is the next step, Steve?
Right. Well, I license people in this process, so it takes a day to license them. So we could either do that online, depending where your audience is, but it's best done in person. So we would set up maybe to train a few. Depends who's interested. It'll either be one-to-one or a group.
Mm-hmm.
In this process, there's a cost involved in that, but we'll do a discount for your membership.
Oof.
And then it's basically they'll have the tool, they'll have the platform, they'll know how to use it. All done within a day. They'll be licensed to use it, and then off they go basically. And then you'll buy the maps as you need them
Mm-hmm.
from myself.
Excellent. Is there a page on your website where somebody can go to register to? You have days where you run this training, presumably.
I haven't got any days set aside because basically I just do it on demand. But to be honest,
Got you.
So I'll get a few people together and then we'll pick a day and I'll send it out. So that's
Okay.
the way we do it. Now on my website, there's the usual thing. You're going to ask a question, send me a notification that you're interested. So that would be probably the best start point. Go on my
Excellent.
website and just respond to me or email me direct at steve@skillsforbusinesstraining.co.uk, which I guess you'll be sharing some information.
Yeah.
So
Excellent. So if
email
somebody
me
wants to get,
direct. Yeah, they can ring me, email me, or they can go on my website and just make a general inquiry. Probably the best way.
okay, fair enough. Well, you've heard it here first. Motivational maps. Great for an organization, great for the employees, and great for you as a HR consultant because you are going to deliver the best service possible to your clients. And that is going to mean that you are going to get referrals, you're going to get repeat business, You're going to get more retainer jobs, more projects, and you will stand out from the crowd of HR consultants who are out there. Did I miss anything else there, Steve?
No, they'll just have the edge. They'll have a tool that gives them the edge, and that's what you need. You need that attention grabber.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, I think that's everything then, Steve.
Okay, well, it's been great, Nick. Really good chatting. So,
perfect. Excellent. I've really enjoyed it too. I hope the listeners have as well.
It's such a fun tool to work with when people realise what's going on with themselves, and it's when you work with teams, they just love it.
Love it. Perfect. Okay, well, thank you for coming along today, Steve. And for those of you listening along at home or on your walk or wherever it is you listen to this podcast, I hope you've enjoyed it. And as ever, get marketing, because without marketing, there's no sales. And without sales, there's no business. So get marketing. Hey there, and thanks for listening to the Marketing Made Easy for HR Consultants podcast. If you've enjoyed the show, then please consider taking a minute to help us grow by sharing the episode with a friend or colleague, or by leaving a positive review on podchaser.com. And make sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the upcoming episodes if you haven't done so already. I've been your host, Nick Paninsky, and if you've got any questions or you want to know more about today's topic, then feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'd be delighted to hear from you. See you next time.